So you might be wondering, how did we go from that to where we are now? Why are the police so beloved and trusted now? It's not like they've gotten any better. Why, when we constantly see the abject failure of police, do people look at those instances of failure as anomalies and not an indication of the reality of policing? The answer to this is multifaceted. There's an inherent investment in the authority that permeates American society. A lot of the support for police, especially now, is essentially just a tacit endorsement of racism and anti-blackness. That's why you have people yelling all lives matter to people saying Black Lives Matter, because you know exactly what they're trying to say. The thin blue line flag saw a huge surge in popularity when Black people started marching against police brutality. I don't think that's a coincidence. But what I really want to engage in with most is a concept called copaganda, which brings us to an old TV show called Dragnet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
If you look at like early 1900s films or like the 1910s, you run into stuff like the Keystone Cops, Charlie Chaplin. These are people, Buster Keaton, these are people who are not exactly liking the police. And that stuff's going on for a while. And then when they move to television, it's like one of the first big TV shows in the 50s, Jack Webb decides, I'm going to work with the police. I'm going to work with the LAPD. I'm going to give them something that is very, quote unquote, authentic.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Authenticity is the calling card of cop shows and of copaganda, is this idea that this is the real story. These are real cases.
These are their stories.
Webb gets all of this equipment from the police. He gets to look at real case files. He gets to do all this stuff for free. So all of that becomes way cheaper and thus more profitable. And all he's got to do, all Jack Webb's got to do, is send every script to the LAPD for censorship and approval.
Before Dragnet, the depiction of police in the media mostly aligned with what the Luxau report had to say. Charlie Chaplin, the Keystone Cops, even Bugs Bunny cartoons showed a negative public sentiment toward the police. Dragnet changed that. Dragnet began a legacy of propaganda where people's understanding of policing stopped being what was actually happening in the streets and started being what we see on TV right now. And since most people don't regularly interact with the police, as we said earlier, and when they do, it's often a mostly positive experience, the reality of what police are to those who interact with them the most, aka the poor, is pretty much not understood. And for over half a century, we've been inundated with propaganda, from the cop shows of the 60s and 70s to the action cops of the 80s and 90s to the procedural dramas of the 2000s and beyond. And now even the neo-propaganda of Marvel and Disney, where the heroes are still cops, but they also have superpowers and they make funny jokes.
Hello, girl, kick your ass.
Cop shows contribute to the myth of the thin blue line, which is that aforementioned idea that police are the only protection good law-abiding citizens have from a world of depraved criminals who want nothing but to harm them.
Joe Friday is the main character, and he is just perfect. Like, he never shoots his gun. When he does, it's one shot. He never misses. He's very clinical. He's very cold. He's very calm.
I took the money from people who had it and gave it to those who didn't. What do you think, Sergeant?
What's that?
Was I wrong?
He never gets emotional. He always gets the right guy. He's just perfect. You know, he's like the ideal of what you would want in a detective. Not realistic at all, obviously, and bought and paid for by the LAPD. Then there's also like a lot of thin blue line stuff going on. So they'll talk about how there's crime right around. There's crime every day. It's threatening our city, but good thing we have Mr. Joe Friday. These are real stories. We've changed the names to protect the innocent, but this is what's going on, guys.
Yeah, and
LAPD's got you.
Shows like Cops used to put that reality on in full display. Shows like Law and Order gave us dramatic, heinous examples of the worst things that could happen, but justice is served by the end of the show. And shows like The Wire and We Own the Night present a critical eye toward policing that still eventually reinforces the thin blue line myth. And even outside of that frame, we have shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Reno 911 that make cops funny.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing.
And shows like Paw Patrol that hide the gross reality of what police dogs tend to do in real life and their historical connection to slavery.
It is a show that is very like pro-police, obviously. Like the main character is a cop dog. His name is Chase. That's kind of crazy. Let's not leave that unsaid. They keep giving him like gadgets. Like he's got like a drone. He's got like spy gear. He's got all this other stuff. There's like mass surveillance. They know where everything is all the time. Research that I did for the Paw Patrol video, I've done a lot of research on cop stuff and police brutality. That is some of the most horrific shit I've ever read. There were like jugulars broken. People lost their testicles, like just crazy golf-sized bites being taken out of people's legs for often like not a real, like just in the arrest. Like they're not convicted. There's nothing going on here. Like they might not even be guilty of anything.
There's nothing.
Chan's when you're back, kid. You're under arrest, okay?
All of these shows and movies promote an image of policing and crime that just isn't real and doesn't even make sense most of the time. However, with these images everywhere, with people engaging with the police through TV more than real life, the fiction becomes reality. And we think this is how policing works, and it definitely is not. As I said earlier, the police don't solve many crimes, and they don't have a legal obligation to protect people. And research has consistently found that more police and the amount of police have little to no effect on crime. There is research that indicates that focused deterrent strategies, aka putting more police in high crime neighborhoods, has some effect on reducing crime. But then we have to engage with the whole other body of research that shows the consequence of over-policing poor communities, aka rises in police brutality, the prison population, community disinvestment, you know, the whole problem of the 94 crime bill. I see multiple cop cars whenever I leave my house, and I don't feel any safer. Further, a fraction of the money being spent to over-police high crime areas could be better used to actually funnel resources into those areas with far greater social benefit at a cheaper price. But the reality is these systems aren't meant to benefit society, they're meant to control it. And the thing is, this is not some like left-wing nonsense. This is not some, critical theory extrapolation. This is well understood, constantly reproduced research.